Welcome to the Best of Year videos.
This video is showcasing the 4 most popular warships on this channel in 2023, starting with the 4th most popular HMS Snowberry.
HMCS Snowberry, the submarine killer.
It was Winston Churchill who reactivated the corvette designation, needing a name for smaller ships used in an escort capacity. Flower was used to designate the class of these ships, which in the Royal Navy were named after flowering plants. Snowberry was assigned to Western Approaches Command. In June 1941 she sailed for Newfoundland, after being loaned to the Royal Canadian Navy, and put to work on convoy escort between St. John's and Iceland.
Ring-a-ding-ding! Sonar picking up sub. Send off Mark 2 depth charges. That's what we do. Full ahead.
March 1942. Snowberry transferred to Western Local Escort Force WLEF. After the U-boats had begun attacking oil tankers, Snowberry joined the newly formed Tanker Escort Force. She was placed under American control escorting between Guantanamo and New York.
Tanker hit by torpedo full ahead. Ring-a-ding-ding! Sonar picking up sub. Send down 3 depth charges. Tanker crew all safe. We will stay here 3 hours and keep looking for any lingering subs. Then catch up.
Good work, Snowberry. We will look forward to talking to you later.
Snowberry stayed until March 1943 on the New York to Guantanamo convoys, when she arrived at Charleston, South Carolina for refit. She joined the newly established EG-5, later EG-6. Returned to UK waters in August while serving with the support force. In November 20, 1943 as escort to a UK Gibraltar Freetown convoy. She took part in the sinking of the U-536 north of the Azores. When the group replaces its corvettes with frigates in March 1944. Snowberry proceeded to Baltimore for 5-week refit. Then joined Portsmouth Command for the balance of the war.
Welcome to Southport Model Boat Club. This is HMS Invincible. Nicknamed Vince. Built by Vickers Shipbuilding in 1973. Homeport Portsmouth.
As the Royal Navy's lead ship of her class of 3 light aircraft carriers, launched on the 3rd of May 1977 as the 7th ship to carry the name. Originally designated as an anti-submarine warfare carrier, but was used as an aircraft carrier during the Falklands War, and deployed with HMS Hermes. Took over as flagship of British fleet when Hermes was sold to India.
Flight deck was 168 meters long and 16.8 meters wide. It was connected to the ship's hangar by 2 lifts, with dimensions 16.66 meters by 9.65 meters, and able to carry aircraft with a weight of 16,000 kilograms. and a height of 6.1 meters. An upward curved ski jump ramp of 6.5 degrees was fitted at the forward end of the flight deck. This allowed the Sea Harriers to take off with a higher disposable payload, while shortening the takeoff run, leaving more space for helicopters. HMS Invincible had 10 Westland Sea King anti-submarine helicopters and 8 Sea Harrier jet fighters.
With a length of 210 meters and a beam 36 meters, the draft 8.8 meters, and a displacement 16,000 long tons light, 22,000 long tons fully loaded. This was the HMS Invincible.
It's goodbye from Southport Model Boat Club. If you can, call in and see us on our club days, Wednesday and Sunday mornings.
Goodbye. This was the HMS Invincible. In 2005, HMS Invincible was decommissioned.
This is HMS Javelin at Southport Model Boat Club. A destroyer of 1760 tons. HMS Javelin was completed shortly before the outbreak of war in 1939. In the early hours of November 29, 1940, she was the leader of a small force of destroyers under the command of Lord Louis Mountbatten, which intercepted some 3 or 4 German destroyers in the chops of the Channel. Scattering to avoid action, the enemy retreated towards Brest, several of them being hit by gunfire before they made good their escape. Unfortunately, the Javelin was hit by a torpedo and completely disabled, in spite of repeated attacks by the enemy bombers. She was towed into port before she sank and in due course refitted.
The Javelin was included in the British squadron, which covered the occupation of the naval base at Diego Suarez, Madagascar by force of the Royal Marines in May 1942. 2 French submarines had to be sunk in the course of these operations. Later, the Javelin did good service in the Mediterranean, intercepting Italian convoys bound for North Africa. On one occasion, she was credited with having sunk 11 vessels in 3 hours. During the invasion of Normandy on the 9th of June 1944, the Javelin was concerned in sinking of the German destroyers Z-32 and ZH-1 off Ashat.
HMS Javelin continued Mediterranean fleet service with flotilla until April 1946, during which period she took part in the Mediterranean Fleet Exercise and Visits programs and patrolled to intercept ships taking immigrants into Palestine. Her early service after VJ Day was marred by serious indiscipline, involving a leading seaman and 19 junior ratings, which resulted in a court-martial later in 1945.
Javelin was sold to the shipbreakers on the 11th of June 1949, and she was scrapped at Troon in Scotland.
HMS Hood, pennant number 51, was the famous battlecruiser of the Royal Navy. The Hood was first of the planned 4 Admiral-class battlecruisers to be built during the First World War.
She was already under construction when the Battle of Jutland occurred in mid-1916. That battle revealed serious flaws in her design despite drastic revisions, before she was completed 4 years later. For this reason, she was the only ship of her class to be completed, as the Admiralty decided it would be better to start with a clean design with the new succeeding battlecruisers.
Hood remained the largest warship in the world for 20 years after her commissioning, and her prestige was reflected in her nickname, the Mighty Hood. Hood was involved in many showing the flag exercises between her commissioning in 1920 and the outbreak of the war in 1939. In 1923 and 1924, She was attached to the Mediterranean Fleet following the outbreak of the Second Italo-Ethiopian War in 1935, when the Spanish Civil War broke out the following year. Hood was officially assigned to the Mediterranean Fleet until she had to return to Britain in 1939 for an overhaul. By this time, advances in naval gunnery had reduced Hood's usefulness. She was scheduled to undergo a major rebuild in 1941 to correct these issues.
But the outbreak of the Second World War in September 1939 kept the ship in service without the upgrades. When war with Germany was declared, Hood was operating in the area around Iceland, and spent the next several months hunting for German commerce raiders and blockade runners between Iceland and the Norwegian Sea. After a brief overhaul of her propulsion system, she sailed as the flagship of Force H, and participated in the destruction of the French fleet at Mers el-Kheba.
Transferred to the home fleet shortly afterwards, Hood was dispatched to Scapa Flow and operated in the area as a convoy escort and later as a defense against a potential German invasion fleet.